All right, so if we keep going, we have done so far installing Git, getting our SSH key, and created an account into GitHub and set it up our SSH key into GitHub. If we have this and it's already done, you will have your system, your computer connected into that third party um, to commit your changes, your software. So let's go a little bit and talk on what I'm talking about, like what's a repository and what's all of that. But for that, I want to use a user interface that will help us a lot at the beginning to understand what I'm talking about. Because Git is something that runs in your machine, but you don't see much of it. When you use the command line, you basically just give commands and you give a little bit of feedback, but you don't see much. So if you are not very into development, or even like some developers have never done this before, I encounter that pretty often, you won't get it as you won't get it as easy. So I wanted to give you guys an option. Like, of course, if you want to use the command line, I also 100% encourage you to do it. It's gonna be the most complete. Is not gonna have any troubles. It's gonna be the best way, but it's gonna be a little bit more challenging. If you wanna go for more user-friendly, basically a solution, I will recommend getting in one of these user interface programs. So my key solution for you guys is GitKraken. Unfortunately, they recently just removed the private repositories as from the free license. So now you will have to pay if you want to use the private repositories. Um, but otherwise, this tool is amazing. It has been so good. I feel like that's why they have made it not free anymore, because it's so good. But there are some alternatives, which I also posted here. One of them is Sourcetree. If you want to check it out, it's completely free. It's for Windows and Mac, and you can use it. It's free. And I know a bunch of people, and I have used it myself as well. Uh, my personal opinion, this is just myself. I don't like it too much, but it will do the same. Like, it will do the work. And another solution, which I prefer more than Sourcetree, and it won't cost you, is Github Desktop. And so to keep it in line with GitHub, you can use Github Desktop. The only downside is that, well, is from GitHub as well. So you will be like getting stuck with GitHub on everything, which is not bad, but like is something just to consider. That's why, for example, we are using Git as our version control for projects in Unity, because as maybe some of you know, Unity has something called the collaboration tool, which is basically a version control system that they have for Unity specifically. The problem with that is if you wanna tomorrow go and do something that is not in Unity, maybe it's in Unreal, or you wanna do a website or just a web application or whatever, you won't be able to use that version control because it's from Unity. But if you use Git, it will work for everything. Like, you can do it for every single thing, and we will see it shortly. Okay, so I'm gonna just start first showing you guys GitKraken. I have installed GitHub Desktop as well, just so you guys can see it, but it's pretty much the same. So we will go with GitKraken so I can explain you what's version control, and it will be way easier to understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so here we have a little bit more of something to check out and see what is going on. I believe there it is. Good. Okay, so this is our interface. Once you connect, like once you open it, you will be able to log in. You can either create a new account for GitKraken. You can use your GitHub account, which I recommend. That's what I do as well, and it's pretty good. The idea of this tool is that it will make everything way easier to manage your projects. So let's start talking from the beginning. When you create a project in Git, it's called a repository. Like in GitHub, we call them your repositories. So if you go here, you see I have here my repositories. So you will create your projects as your repositories. That's basically just the name of your project and some basic information about it. But this will hold everything from your project. And as I said before, it doesn't need to be for Unity. This is for everything. Like Unity is not, it's not like the Unity collaboration that is only for that. This one is for any type of software development that you are doing. Okay, so if we go here to our little tab here, we have some options. We can open a repository, we can clone a repository, or we can start a local repository. So there's like a bunch of things here we can do. And basically what it does is when you want to open a repository is just take a project that is local in your machine, that it has been already like open through Git, and it will let you like manage it. When you want to clone it is when you want to grab it from the internet, like from GitHub, for example, or Bitbucket or somewhere else. To like you can see here, you have GitHub, GitLab, Gitbucket, Azure DevOps. So you can grab it from there and like clone it, or you can just start one local. So I already have one project here open, which is the one that I was working on, which by the way, we can just check it out. No, we will go here and then we will check it out. So this is how it looks at project once you open it and already has some things. You will have like kind of these three columns where you have all the information of your project. This left column is telling you like the information about your repository. So as I told you, like you will always have a local version of your project, and it's here, and it's called master. Git, as I told you before, it manages branches, and we will go a little bit more into that in a moment. But for now, what you need to know is like every time that I create a project, it will be created with the master branch, like is the middle, like all my project will be there. So I have my local repository, and it has the master branch. And this project is connected to a remote repository. And it has the origin and the master branch. So basically these two master branches are kind of connected. So I can see my progress locally, and I can push it remote. Or if someone else makes any changes on the branch, on the remote repository, I will be able to see it and pull it from here. There's some pull requests. I'm not gonna go into it on this tutorial because that's a little bit more in depth talking about like GitHub and Git. But it's basically just a quick note on it. Is when you have a project out there and there's a lot of developers that are making changes, you don't want them all to just like throw them into your project. You want them to just make a request so those changes can be merged into your project, but we don't need to go into it. The tags as well, we are not going to use them for now. That's basically how like making some tags in your comments, but that's something that we will cover in a next course. So models the same. This is very powerful, and I use it a lot, but for this course is not also important, and same for GitHub Actions. So for here we're only going to care about like these two options, like the local and the remote. Then you will have your this like the middle column. In the middle column, you will have the history of your branches. So as you can see, here is where my project started. I started my project with a README that doesn't say too much, and then I started creating some more things. So how it's divided is in Git you have to commit your changes and then you have to push your changes. So all of these little lines that you see here are commits that I made when I was creating the project. So every time that you make some changes in your project, you want to create a commit. For example, here I did the enemy controller, which basically has a script for the enemy controller, and I push that commit. This helps yourself in the future to see what happened. Like for example, I want to know, oh, when did I make the enemy controller, so I can go back and see here it is, and I can check it out. I can open and I can see what it's about. But also, it's very powerful when you are working with a team, because in that way, when you are working with someone, before you do anything, you can see what the other people have done. And you can check, oh, they made the checkpoint logic. Is this okay? So I can keep working, because the main conflict that we have when we work in a team is that sometimes we will be working on the same thing. That's a problem, right? Because if you are working on the same file or something as another person, then how can you merge those things? So for the most part, it's a little bit easy to merge those conflicts, they're called. But in Unity, because we have a lot of files that are not just scripts, sometimes it's a little bit hard. That's why we need to be careful on what we commit, because we don't want to override what the other developer did with our changes, or we don't want to get our changes overridden by the changes from another developer. So we gotta be very careful. So yes, here we have all of our commits and everything, and we can see here that we are on the master branch. Here we have some buttons. I will go at the end, but on your right hand, you have kind of like your previewer of those commits. So I can see what I have done on each commit, and I can click it. I can check what I changed. It gives me the commit message at the description if it has, who did it. That's why it's important to have the name that I told you to set up, and the email, just in case you need to know who did this, and it will give you the time and everything. Here, most of the times you will get it like this. I would like to use it in a tree because it gives you the folder structure of the changes. So that's pretty neat. Okay, and now let's go here into the top bar, which is the tools that you will be using while you use GitKraken and basically Git. So what you always want to do before you push any of your changes is you want to push. What you can pull. What you can do is you can fetch first. This what we'll do is we'll bring, in case there's are some commits that are not shown here. So